How to define your unique brand voice and write copy that moves people. You know, the kind of copy that when you're scrolling down, it stops you and you read it, and it's not even because of the hook, or the kind of copy that makes people cry. And trust me, I have written that kind of copy in the past, and I've seen people create that kind of copy in the past. It is not the kind of copy that's going to make you go viral. It's not going to make you famous. But it is going to make somebody send you a DM or an email and say, hey, I want to work with you no matter the price because I know you're the one. Because you're speaking to me, because I know you know what you're talking about. And it's not even about skill set. When we say you know what you're talking about, we're talking about just somebody connecting with you on a deeper level. Of course, you have to have the skill set, but somebody has to connect with you on that kind of level where they've decided that you're the only one because they've resonated with you so deeply. That's the kind of content and voice I want you to be able to create, okay? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about why is it that a lot of times people do everything right. They follow all of the copywriting frameworks, the brand voice frameworks. They define how they want to sound to their audience. They define how to speak. They know how to, they understand the concepts, right? At a mental level, they understand I have to write a hook and I have to do this and I have to do this. And yet in application, even though that's done, there's something that's missing from it. There's something that's missing. And so you'll know this is for you if you find yourself oftentimes wanting to write something. Maybe you go to your social media and you write a post. And next thing you know, you're just deleting like stuff and you're like, oh no, this is too much, or this is too crazy. I can't say that. I shouldn't say that. And you keep removing things until at some point it's no longer yours. And of course, a 5-minute or 10-minute thing turns into a 1-hour task. And then in the end, it's not even an expression of who you really are. It's not the message you actually really wanted to say. It's just a diluted, watered down version of it. Because you're trying to be something that you're not. You're trying to be like everybody else. You're trying to not stand out too much. And in doing that, as you'll understand, in the rest of the video, I'm going to talk about the element, the reason why this works. We're going to talk about the connection between this and acting. And we're going to talk about the exercise that I have for you today. And this is not an exercise that's meant to stifle or suppress you or limit you. This is an exercise that's meant to inspire you so that you have a little bit of a guideline so you're not completely lost when you're starting with this process of defining your brand voice and writing your own style of copywriting. So you have something to help you, but also the real deal, the real exercise. Okay, so to not get too ahead of myself, let's get right into it. By the way, if you're new to, if this is the first time that you're catching me, my name is Aliana. I am founder at Brands Are Alive, where we help conscious creators bring their full self-expression to their brands and build a business that makes you feel alive. And this is what I talk about all the time. I talk about bringing your full self-expression to your brand and business and everything you create. So if you like this kind of videos, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss me when I release the next video. So let's get right into it. Okay, let's talk about, first of all, what is the element that's missing from all of these frameworks? Because I'm sure that if you struggled with writing content or writing copy or whatever, or finding your voice, that you've looked it up at some point. You've found some exercises, some frameworks, some tips, some tricks, some whatever, and maybe you've tried some of them. Or if you're like me, it might be something that you've done professionally at some point. I mean, at some point I used to get paid to do this, to write copy, to create these kind of things. It was part of my work and brand strategy. It was part of my work to define the voice of the brand. But then when it came to my own brand, or myself, when it became to showing my full self-expression, I started to struggle because I was so afraid of showing myself. And this is the crux of the matter. The reason why you're not connecting, the reason why you're not able to express yourself fully, the reason why you're not able to write that kind of copy, even though you're an expert, you know what you're talking about, you probably are really good at writing copy for other people if you had to. The reason why when it comes to talking about your real opinion, you're sharing your truth, you struggle so much is because you haven't connected to your own emotion. And if you haven't connected to your own emotions, you can't connect to other people's emotions. You can't move other people if you're not moved. You can't. You cannot expect somebody else to have an emotion if you haven't embodied that emotion yourself. But for most of us, we've gone through so much trauma and so much pain in our life and so much hurt that we haven't dealt with properly. We haven't addressed. We kind of brushed it under the rug. And so when it came time to bearing your soul and showing who you really are in your brand, in your copy, you struggle so much because you're afraid of letting people see you in your fullness. And so you feel like you have to be something that you're not. So it's almost like you're looking for permission to allow yourself to be who you really are and do what makes you feel alive. Instead of just going for it, you're just going out there, you're looking at people in your field or people who are similar, who are serving a similar audience. You're looking at what they say and how they say it and what's their style and what works and what doesn't, and trying to just stay in your lane. And that is a recipe for everything that is not what I teach. Okay, because I think that your full self-expression is so important. It's actually more important than even resonating with the audience. Yep. It's more important than attracting an audience and selling. Look, if you're just trying to write copy to sell something that you don't care about, I'm not for you. Like, there are tons of people out there who will show you shortcuts of how to use and misuse and abuse people's weaknesses and humanity to sell them stuff they don't want. But if you are somebody who has a message or something that you deeply care about, it's going to be hard, especially if you're ahead of your time. It's going to be really hard for you to own it. It requires a lot of courage to own who you are when you are the first one or one of the first people to speak about a topic. When you're the odd one out. Do you know how hard it was for me, coming from a background in marketing and being a consultant, to come here and talk about love and spirituality and sacred plant medicine and like full self-expression and creative expression and all of that, when all my clients and all people wanted, not all the clients, but all that most clients wanted was just, what's the ROI? What's the money? Where's the money? And money was there. Money was there. We were making a ton of money, but I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy. I wasn't feeling like my work mattered. I felt like I was suppressing parts of myself. And that's why I know that for a lot of people, if you're a service provider, or even if you're selling a product, if you just care about what is it that you're sharing with people, your content, your creation, whatever it is that you're creating, okay, if you care, and if you're a real person, it's going to be really hard for you to lie to yourself and lie to the people that you serve. You just can't do it. It feels off, And so the core reason why I wasn't able to connect in the beginning is because I was trying to be something that I was not, And so I found myself a lot of times going back and forth on things and diluting them and making them lesser than, right? And I'm sure if you're watching this, there's a very good chance that you've experienced something similar. So you are looking at what other people are creating, and it makes you question yourself if you're different. You're like, there's got to be something wrong with me. I have to be like everybody else. I can't allow myself to stand out. I can't be the weird one here. I've got to be square, okay? Especially if your livelihood depends on it. So often we talk about fear of rejection, fear of ridicule, fear of, embarrassment, whatever, but there's also the truth. The truth is there's also the fear of if I don't resonate with the audience, then I can't sell. And if I don't sell, then I can't pay the bills next month for a lot of people. That's the reality. So we got to talk about these things, okay? And don't get me wrong, this is scary stuff. Bearing your soul is scary stuff. It's risky in that you are doing something different. But then again, life is risky. Everything is risky. You're taking risks every day. Might as well take risk for something that actually matters, right? And it's like worst case scenario is not going to be disastrous. But anyway, I digress. So the core here is that you're not connecting to your emotions. And if you don't solve this, there's tons of reasons why this is a huge problem, okay? Because you can follow the frameworks, like I said. You can go and Google, how do I define my brand voice? How do I write great copy that converts and sells? But at the end of the day, unless you've done this, unless you've practiced this full and free self-expression that really shows your raw emotion, your copy, your content, your voice, your brand voice is always going to be like everybody else. You're going to sound like everyone else because everyone else is doing the same thing. So first of all, like I mentioned, the content process, it becomes frustrating. It takes more time than it needs to. You're suppressing your self-expression, so you're not really showing who you are. You don't even know who you are because you can't practice expressing yourself and like discovering things about yourself. Listen, you discover yourself in the same way often that we discover other people. You know how the more you talk to someone or the more you listen to someone, the more you know about that person. And in the same way, if you are talking to somebody but they're not showing you who they really are, they can't even admit it to you, it's the same way you're not going to know the real you because you're so caught up in who you're supposed to be. It's a practice of knowing oneself. This is the core of everything I do. I want you to know who you are, love it, and bring it to everything you create. And then you can't tap into your creative genius because you're so caught up in what everybody else is creating, what everybody else is doing, and what this expert told you about copywriting, and what this expert told you about this specific framework you're supposed to use for this specific thing in your brand, and you're supposed, and instead of using these tools the way they were meant to be used, which is to help guide you a little bit and create a little bit of structure, it becomes your prison, your jail, and you stop listening to yourself. And again, you're looking at other people in your field and you're questioning yourself and you're feeling like there's something wrong with you if you stand out too much. So I'll give you an example. Early on, even when I decided I no longer wanted to pretend to be who I was in, as a marketing consultant, so just purely like left-brained, nothing but logic person. And I started to discover and unleash more of this side of myself, right? This like more mindful, spiritual, kind of bit philosophical type of person that I was suppressing the entire time, everything about my interests in arts and creativity and whatnot. So even when I decided I wanted to incorporate spirituality in marketing and business, I was like, wait, everybody else who is talking about spirituality in business speaks in a certain way. They all like their pink and their bubbles and their champagne and like there's this very bubbly female personality that's just, I don't know how to explain it, but you'll know the type. And I felt different. I felt like I wasn't fitting in with that, And I thought, well, I didn't leave that to become something else that I'm not, that I don't want to be. It's not even being or not being. Those are just masks, characters that we play, but I was not interested in playing that kind of role either. And I was like, maybe I will never be able to resonate with, with heart-centered people unless I spoke like that or unless I acted like that. And so I felt like I was too masculine, too logical for the spiritual people, but too emotional and too this for the other people. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm somewhere in the middle. Anyway, so you get the idea. Like, your mind will play all sorts of tricks on you. It will convince you that there's something wrong with you. But the truth is, it's all fear. It'll come up with the weirdest kinds of reasons why you are so broken. You are so bad and wrong and broken. And if you run with the mind, and thankfully I had trained myself to tame my own mind. But if you allow it, it'll take you places you don't want to go. And beyond just constantly looking at others and comparing and feeling like, something is wrong with me, there's also this element of needing reassurance from your audience. So I remember even when I started the newsletters, and this is as recently as like less than a year ago, I remember in the beginning, I was questioning the value of what I was creating so much. I was like constantly asking myself if I was providing enough value, as if I had to earn, people's attention. I had to, if somebody were to give me their email address and read my newsletters, then I better provide value as quickly as possible, give them as much value as possible in 5 minutes. That was the place I was operating from. And that's, again, rooted in low self-worth. This is low self-worth and self-worth issues and healing and everything is really at the core and the roots of everything that we talk about here. It's a huge part of it. Because honestly, if you didn't have core wounds around your worth, you wouldn't have a problem just taking your clothes off, and I'm not asking you to do that, but you'll just fucking do it. You don't care what people think. You don't care how people feel, or how it's going to resonate or not resonate. You don't worry about any of that, right? Because you're like, well, I am who I am in my full glory, and if you don't like it, well, that's great. You do you. But anyway, so I'll put some links in the description about self-worth, because it's something that no matter how much you think you've healed this, you should always go back and look into it. And like I said, again, the inability to connect with your audience is a huge one. Okay? All right, let's talk about the exercise, or how do you do this? Well, first thing I want you to understand is that defining your brand voice is really a lifetime practice, because your voice is actually ever changing and evolving as you grow, as you live, as you experience things, as you change. Not only are you discovering more about your voice, but also you are developing more of your voice. So it's not a static thing that you're going to discover and define and that's it, and once and done kind of deal. So I invite you to be patient with yourself. This is going to be crucial. Then the next thing I want you to know is, in this exercise there are two parts. One part, which is a definition or a bit restrictive, but please don't let this restrict you. This is, again, meant to help you get a head start, not be the end all be all of your brand voice and your copy, right? So here's how it works. I want you to take a piece of paper or a notebook or whatever and journal about, if your business were and it's like perfect place, like you are exactly where you want to be, your brand is the way you want it to be, you're making the kind of money you want to make, you have whatever your goals are, right? Whether if your goals are just like you want to reach a certain revenue goal, let's say you want to reach 7 or 8 figures, you say, okay, what if my business were already generating this much? Or if your goal is to grow your audience to a certain level, which is, I usually don't care too much about like those numbers, but if that's something, like I want to be famous, if that's what you want to have like 10 million followers, imagine the ideal, the dream, like that perfect day in your business. You are already where you need to be, your business is where you want it to be, your brand is where you want it to be. People can't wait to hear from you. You go online and there's like hundreds or thousands of people waiting for you to speak, and they're like drinking and eating your words and stuff. Okay, from that place, how do you want people to know you? From that place, how do you want to be perceived as a brand? From that place, who do you want to be? Because it's from that place of, I have everything, I have nothing to fear, I don't have to pay the bills, I don't have to think about what's realistic, I don't have to think about any of that. I have everything is already taken care of. Now from this place, who do I want to be? How do I want to be perceived? And you can journal about this if you have never thought about it before. It's a good exercise to kind of give you some awareness about, how you want to be perceived when you are at your best, when you're no longer in fear, when you're no longer in scarcity. But, once you've done that, then try to define it in 3 to 5 words, right? How you want your brand to be perceived. Try to define that in 3 to 5 words. The reason why I want you to define it in 3 to 5 keywords is because this is not a hard and fast rule. This is just a number that's doable and reasonable. It's not 100 words. It's not also just 1 word. It's a few words that you can remember and that you can keep top of mind to guide you, right? Whenever you're creating content, whenever you're writing copy, whenever you are expressing your voice. So now that you've defined this, okay, just that awareness is going to help you. Now that you've defined this, here is the difficult part of the exercise. Now I want you to practice your rant. What is your rant? Your rant is when you express yourself fully without censoring yourself, okay? Actually, I thought a great way to think about how to connect to the emotion or your emotions is to look into how actors do it. And Senfer Meisner, I hope I'm not butchering his name, but he is an actor who was also an acting teacher, the creator of the Meisner technique. And he said something along the lines of, like, nothing believable or interesting happens between 2 actors until they get present and until I can get them out of their heads. And he kept talking about this. He said, like, act before you think, because your instincts are more truthful than your thoughts. And this is very true. When you are in your head and you're like, I've got to control the exact specific words that come out of my mouth next, this is problematic. This is not an invitation to not think about what you want to say. You do want to think about it. You do want to write and organize your thoughts, and you want to research and whatever. You want to think about what to say, but how to say it, specifically how the words come out of your mouth, in what expression. That's something where it's the best self-expression happens when you are not thinking. You're kind of just flowing and the words are just coming out of your mouth, and you don't have to control them. You don't have to think about specific words that you're going to say, the sequence of words in a sentence. It just happens, right? And you become like the stage for this to happen. And so this is exactly the practice. The practice is that when you go and create a social media post, I want you to rant, write it exactly the way you would want to say it, with all, connect to your emotion, the emotion of why are you pissed off about this? Why does this problem bother you? Why do you love this? Why do you hate this? Why does this make you feel alive? Whatever emotion you're feeling, okay? And by the way, please sort out whatever emotion. When I say emotions, this is not a place to get emotional healing, right? It's not about just yelling at people and telling them all sorts of hurtful things, but the idea is when you've worked through your wounds, it's not an emotion that's coming from an unhealed wound. It's an emotion that's coming from being a human being, being connected to your emotion. You'll know the difference. It's like, I'm excited about this topic, or I don't like how marketing is done in this way. I don't like how nutrition is done in this way. I have a different opinion about coaching. I have a different whatever. Your rant, say it exactly the way it comes to you. Write it down in that post, and then take a quick look at it once or twice just to make sure that you don't have any typos or misspellings. If you want to structure the posts in a way that makes it easier to read, but one thing you do not want to do is go back there and go, oh, this is too much, oh, this is too crazy, oh, what will they think about, oh, and then start removing and suppressing yourself and changing the message. It's a different thing if you are dispassionately editing. If you genuinely think this word is not accurate, I have a better word for it, or I have a better way of saying this that's shorter, but don't change the core of the expression. Don't change the core of the expression. Don't tone it down. That's what I'm saying to you. Do not tone it down for anyone. So that's how you practice it. And there's no shortcut. This is a practice. You have to keep practicing this full self-expression and freeing yourself from the fear of how you're going to be perceived, or disappointing people or hurting people. You're not doing it as long as you're coming from the right intention. You're not responsible for how people react. You are responsible for what you say. You are responsible for what you create. But it's not your job to worry and try to understand other people's minds and get into their heads. It's difficult enough to try to understand oneself. All right? Let's not complicate our life. And again, this is not to say not to use all of these copywriting and brand voice exercises and frameworks out there. Not at all. But again, just like an actor, you can have a great actor who really connects with an audience, has just a strong connection with the character, with the emotion, but they don't really have the technique, they don't have the skill. They'll be missing a little bit of something, but still they'll be able to connect with the audience. Likely they'll do a better job. And then you can have somebody who went to the best schools, got coached by the best people, practiced their script a ton, but the element that's missing is the emotion, the connection to their emotion, and the ability to get out of their head and into their body, to be present, to be connected to the emotion and bearing their soul, bearing their spirit, their emotion, their truth to other people. And that person is never going to be able to connect no matter how good they are on paper. But the real deal, the best of the best, is somebody who has both. Somebody who learns the skill set, learns how to do it in a technical way, but also especially connects to this emotion, to this criteria that, when you give your emotion in copy, in anything, in acting, in anything, once you connect with it, with your emotion, and you bear your emotion and you bear your soul, you really literally bring it alive. Once again, my name is Aliana. I am founder at Brands Are Alive. We help mindful and conscious and creative creators, we are all creators, but you'll know yourself, the conscious creator type. We help you build a brand of full self-expression and a business that makes you feel alive. So if you found this video helpful, if it resonated with you and you'd like to discuss more how I can help you, there is a link in the description to reach out to me and book a quick call with me so we can talk about what's going on for you. And I'll put a couple of links in the description as well for some resources that I think will be helpful, other videos that you should watch if you're interested in learning more about this topic of bringing your full self-expression to your brand. All right, till next week. Bye-bye.